down on my hot seat. Now come closer. I won't bite you. I don't think so anyway. Does your microphone work?
Is it working? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, louder, louder.
Louder, sorry.
Yes.
You can all hear me now.
Yes. So the pink lady with the red lady.
We didn't coordinate, I promise.
So, Shivani, tell us what your role is at Vodafone and what is Tomorrow Street all about.
First of all, thank you for having me here today. I know I've got a lovely colleague in the audience as well. But Tomorrow Street is, for those of you who don't know, it's a joint venture between Vodafone and the Luxembourg government. And we're an innovation incubator. And what's very special about us in Luxembourg is that we work with scale-ups, so later stage startups. So they have commercial models, they've got a lot of different customers, and essentially we're trying to break them into telco and bring that innovation lens there. Okay.
So we're talking about talent and innovation. Innovation is needed now in our industry, well, it was needed yesterday and the month before, but talent doesn't happen overnight. You know, we can't just think we need talent and then it just appears. So how do you balance that, the need for innovation now and the time it takes to bring talent into the industry?
So I think it's probably a combination of both, I would say, and there's a million different answers to this, and we could probably talk about it for a long time. But maybe a few of the main ones would be making sure that in all of our different kind of telco environments, we have that space for innovation. So having innovation incubators, having the space to think about those new ideas. But this is where I think the diversity angle that I think was mentioned in the last conversation is really important, because it's about who are you bringing to the table. Technology will only ever be as good as the people who are making it, who are delivering it. So what you want to do is bring in different people, people who look different, people who think differently, people who have come from different environments, different socioeconomic, growing up, for example. And it's how do we keep them? If we go back to, again, another point that you spoke about was youth. At Vodafone, we have really, really wonderful youth programs. We have internships, apprenticeships, graduate schemes. And I started 5 years ago and we're all gone. So there's only maybe 3 out of 50 of us who are still working at Vodafone. And that means your talent is going because people maybe get bored, or they don't want to be in an environment that's not moving fast enough, like in startups. So it's how do we also bring that innovation with new ideas and upskill the people that we have, or reskill the people that are in our environment as well.
So why, for the people out there, to convince them they need to look into that and take action? I mean, we're women of action. So why do they need to take action? Why does the diversity and inclusion really trigger innovation? Try to convince them.
I'll convince you. I'll use an example. I think automotive was mentioned again in the last conversation. So if I'm allowed to, I'm going to ask a question to the audience about. So historically, the automotive industry has been quite male-dominated, and that means they would use male dummies in the cars. And they've only started using female dummies in 2023. And I think there might be women in the room who have that annoying point where the seatbelt's too high and it hits your neck. It's just really frustrating. So my question to you would be, does anyone know how much more likely women are to be injured in a car accident than men?
Good question.
Any ideas? You can just throw out some numbers.
We could maybe less than 10%. Let's give them. 5 times more likely?
Yeah, so 50% more likely to get injured.
50%.
And they're actually 20% more likely to die. And that's purely just because it's been a male-dominated industry, and so they were using male crash test dummies. So to go back to why do we need diversity and inclusion in not just telco, in every company, it's you need to serve your consumer base, really. If you don't have people from different backgrounds, you're basically missing out a huge chunk of your market, whether it's age diversity, or it's people from who are in rural areas, for example, if they don't have access to a network. It's all these different things. And then again, how do we keep these people? If you can create an inclusive environment, which is, you know, people are psychologically safe, they feel physically safe, then you actually have better business results. So you have more revenue, you have better productivity. So really everyone's winning if you have more diversity. And there's studies done, so all the evidence is there.
And it's not just young people. I talk a lot about young people, but also it's how to keep the older generation in our industry and make them share their knowledge, work with the young people so that both can win and we all win at the same time. It's not just about women or young people. It's about the whole portfolio, the whole society being represented.
And actually one thing in terms of age, actually it's so beneficial, at least what I find is working with colleagues who have more experience, working with people who are older and have been there for longer. I can learn about, whether it's the politics in the environment or whether it's how to navigate different relationships and how to understand different environments. It's really valuable to have a complete diverse set of age, gender, race, ethnicity, all of these things.
Okay, so this morning we've talked about a lot of the new tech, emerging techs, like AI, of course, IoT, 5G. So what does it mean in terms of talent? What type of people are we trying to attract to make sure that these technologies grow and are successful?
I think in terms of that, now everyone in the room is probably more technical than me, so I won't tell you what necessarily the hard skills you need for 5G deployment, IoT, etc. I would bring in the soft skills element as well, because you can have the smartest person in the room, but if they don't necessarily have the ability to collaborate or communicate their vision, then it makes it difficult for teams to work together. Again, going back to needing different skills in the team. But I'd be interested maybe after we finish to get your perspective on the idea of scale, because I was talking to a recruiter at Vodafone, and what she said is one of the things they really look for in the people that they're recruiting is they need to have worked in other corporates, for example, or have worked on a global billion scale, because if they're coming from a maybe small, medium enterprise or a startup, they might not have the scale that, for example, a company like Vodafone has, which I think then goes back to which different skills. So it would be interesting to maybe afterwards hear people's perspective on that idea of, do we need people who have worked in corporates, or should we be bringing in people who have worked in, small, medium enterprises, SOHOs, for example?
And maybe it's a case-by-case basis. Maybe there's not a perfect rule that, every case is different. Any questions? By the way, we can have interactions if you want. No? So I guess you mentioned nurturing and keeping the talent, because one challenge is to attract them, but the next challenge, as you said a few times, and I agree with you completely, is to keep them and nurture them and make them grow and make them want to stay, but also be successful. So how do you do that? It's a tricky question. How do you, first of all, identify the talent that you want to keep, and how do you make sure that they stay?
So maybe I'm going to ask the audience a question again. Isabelle's going to tell me off after.
No, I love it. I love it.
So what traits would you say define a good leader, for example?
Sorry. They're going to come.
We had money. Oh, the microphone's coming round. Yeah. What traits do you think define good leadership?
I believe salary is the most important point.
Salary.
Yeah, exactly.
money talks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one, of course, with the young generation, because the young generation, we have to think they like to, they're maybe more than my generation, happy to move around. So they expect to move around and move up quickly. So yes, I think they will be prone to being enticed by more money for sure.
Yeah,
you
in
agree?
reality,
Maybe you disagree. Yes, go ahead.
I have my personal experience when I started my career, that I was just concentrated on making my career, building myself, increasing myself more and more. But finally, at the end of the day, when I start asking my manager for a small increment or like that, he doesn't accept. So I realized the situation from first day that it's money finally. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay. Do you agree?
I believe so.
Shivani?
Any other? I was going to say, I'm not sure if it necessarily would give me. Oh, we got another point over here.
Oh, Susan, we can't hear
on.
you.
It's not on.
Can you hear me
Yep.
now? Yeah. I've got three actually. I think recognizing talents, strengths in others, and also weaknesses. I think effective communication, and I think being a great listener.
That's a true woman's answer, listening. But recognition is very important. You have to feel recognized, and that's part of the money as well. You know, it's part of making people can tell you, but then if they show you with a salary, or at least show you with a plan, you know, that you have a plan, even if you don't get more money now, down the line that will come. Okay, so I like to finish. Wow, it's going very fast. I'm having a great discussion with you today. So I have a little game to play with you. Are you ready?
I'm
you
ready.
waiting
I'm ready
for
for
it?
the game.
Okay, it's called the one-word challenge. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you can only answer with one word. No cheating. Okay? You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. What do you think is the next big player when it comes to talent?
OpenAI.
Okay. What's the next big thing? And you can't say AI.
Datafication.
Datafication. Okay. What is the next big challenge?
Privacy.
And what is the next big opportunity in terms of talent?
That's a good question. 6G networks. That's the future.
Oh my God.
I'm not very technical, so forgive me if anyone says that's absolutely incorrect.
Okay. Okay, so, and you've been on my panels before, so you know I like to work. I like for you to leave the audience with one last message. One thing you want them to remember when they leave the room. What is it?
If you create inclusive environments, it will be better for your business results. You'll make more money.
Very good. Any questions before we let Shivani go? Oh, yes, and the question in the front.
You said that I think you're one of 3 or 4 out of 50 in the Vodafone Youth Programme. So why did you stay?
That's a really good question. So I stayed because I was able to join Tomorrow Street and I moved from the UK to Luxembourg. We talk about moving. So for me, as well as having a salary increase, I had the cultural change. I had the chance to move to a different country and work with people who come from all over the world, more so in our UK offices. So, I mean, I love it. Vodafone's a great place to work. So is Tomorrow Street. So I think we need more of our youth to stay.
And I think you said something that reminded me of when I was young, which was quite a while ago now, 30 years ago, when I started in the industry. And I think you said one thing that is key. They gave us a lot of responsibility from the start. You know, after 6 months, I was traveling to Japan, to all over the place, going to events, being part of working groups very young. And for me, that was very important. Because I said, well, no, number one, the company trusts me, and it's giving me so much life experience, not just work experience. So for me, that was a big part of staying in my job and being very happy in it. And that's why I try to encourage more young people to come to conferences. We've stopped doing that, I think, from initially, 30 years ago. There was a lot of young people in the conferences. So that's one of my initiatives. I try to encourage more young people to come and to be part of the discussion. So on this note, Shivani, as always, amazing discussion. We could have discussed it for another 15 minutes at least. Thank you very much, Shivani.
Thank you.